Welcome to Midnight Story. Tonight's story was close to midnight when I first noticed the elevator. Not because it looked strange. Not because it made noise. But because everyone in the building avoided it like it was listening. I lived in the Hawthorne Residences, a 40-story apartment building in Chicago. Old, concrete, quiet. The kind of place where footsteps echoed too long and neighbors never learned each other's names. Perfect for people who wanted to disappear. The building had two elevators. One was modern, fast, reliable. The other was old. Steel doors scratched by decades of fingernails, a flickering yellow light inside, and a panel of buttons worn so smooth you could barely read the numbers. Most residents called it the spare. Others called it the mistake. I would later learn its real name didn't matter. Because it never took anyone to the same floor twice. The first ride. That night, the good elevator was under maintenance. A handwritten sign taped to the wall read, "Please use elevator B, temporary. Elevator B, the old one." I hesitated. Everyone did. 3 people stood behind me, pretending to scroll their phones, silently hoping someone else would go first. I sighed and stepped in. The doors closed with a sound like a tired breath. Inside, it smelled faintly of dust, and something warmer. Like old paper. Or memories. I pressed 12. The doors shut. The elevator moved, but it didn't feel like it was going up. There was no vibration, no sense of motion, just a low hum, like a distant heartbeat. Then ding, the doors opened. I stepped out, and froze. This wasn't the 12th floor. The hallway was wider. The carpet was green, not brown. The lights were dimmer, buzzing softly. And the apartment numbers didn't match the building's layout. Someone brushed past me, a woman in a nurse's uniform, crying quietly, whispering. I didn't mean to leave him. Before I could ask her anything, the elevator doors closed behind me. When I turned back, the elevator was gone, a floor that shouldn't exist. I stood there, heart pounding, telling myself this was stress. Fatigue. A prank. I walked to the stairwell. It wasn't there. No exit signs. No emergency lights. Just doors. Endless doors. I tried one. Inside was a small apartment. Familiar. Too familiar. It was my childhood home. The same peeling wallpaper. The same cracked mirror. Even the smell of my mother's cooking onion and oil and something burning. In the living room, a boy sat on the floor. 8 years old. Me. He looked up, eyes wide, and said, "You're not supposed to be here yet." I stumbled backward, slammed the door shut, and ran. As I ran, the hallway began to stretch, like it was breathing. The lights dimmed further. Then ding. The elevator doors opened behind me. I didn't question it. I ran inside and hit 12 again. The doors closed. My hands were shaking. Back, but not quite. When the doors opened, I was back on my floor. Or something close to it. Same brown carpet. Same dim lights. But my apartment door was slightly different. The number read 12A. I lived in 12C. A man stood outside 12A, holding keys, looking confused. He turned to me and asked, "Do you know how long I've been gone?" I didn't answer. He continued, voice breaking, "I got on the elevator to take out the trash. That was 3 years ago." Before I could say anything, the elevator doors behind us opened again. Empty. Waiting. The man shook his head violently. "No, not again." He ran down the hall and vanished around the corner where the hallway shouldn't have turned. I went to my apartment, locked the door, and didn't sleep. The pattern. Over the next few weeks, I listened. I stopped using headphones. I stopped playing music. And I heard things. Whispers in the hallway. Footsteps that didn't echo right. People. Crying, laughing, arguing with no one. Then I started noticing the missing posters. At first, one. Then many. A college student. A single mother. An elderly man. All last seen, near the elevator. I asked the superintendent. He stared at me for a long time before saying, "That elevator doesn't take you where you want to go." Then he walked away. The rule unspoken. People who rode elevator B started sharing stories in whispers, in laundry rooms, in late-night text messages. Patterns emerged. It never took you to the same floor twice. It showed you places tied to regret. If you stayed too long, you forgot why you wanted to leave. If you tried to break something, the elevator didn't like it. And the worst rule of all. If it shows you someone who recognizes you, run. Because that means, you belong there. My second mistake. I told myself I'd never ride it again. But one night, during a storm, the power went out. Emergency lights flickered on, and from the darkness of the lobby, I heard it. Ding. The elevator doors were open. Inside stood a woman. She looked exhausted, older than me, her hair streaked with gray. She stared at me like she'd been waiting her whole life. And then she said my name. Not the short version, my full name, the way only family used to say it. She whispered, "Please, don't make the same choices I did." I stepped inside. Floors of regret. That night, the elevator showed me things I never let myself feel. A version of my life where I stayed with someone I loved and slowly destroyed them. Another where I chased success and buried everyone else. Another where I never left the building at all. Each floor felt heavier. Each door tried to convince me to stay. You're safe here. You already failed out there. You can rest now. Time stopped meaning anything. My phone had no signal. No battery drain. No time. Just floors. Then, finally, one door opened to something empty. A long hallway. At the end an elevator. The same one. Waiting. The choice. Inside, the panel had no numbers. Just two buttons. Stay. Leave. My reflection in the metal doors looked older. Tired. Like the woman who knew my name. I realized the truth. The elevator wasn't random. It was mercy. It showed you every version of who you could become, and asked which regret you could live with. I pressed leave. The elevator screamed. Not loud but deep. Like something breaking its own heart. The final floor. I woke up on the lobby floor. Morning sunlight streamed through the glass doors. People walked by like nothing had happened. The old elevator was gone. Replaced by a wall. I moved out a month later. But sometimes very late at night. When the world is quiet. When your thoughts are loud. I swear I hear it. Ding. And I know somewhere, someone else just stepped inside. If you're listening to this story late at night, wrapped in blankets, lights low. Remember this. Some doors don't lead forward or backward. They lead inward. So choose carefully. And if you enjoyed this midnight story, let it play softly as you drift to sleep. Good night, sleep well. And don't forget to subscribe, and press the bell icon. Alright, let's go deeper. Slowly. Like a true midnight story that doesn't rush you, but pulls you in. The elevator that never took anyone to the same floor. After I moved out of Hawthorne Residences, I promised myself I would forget. New apartment, new routines, different streets. For a while, it worked. But forgetting isn't the same as escaping. Every building I entered after that, offices, malls, hospitals, I noticed elevators more than I should. I watched how long the doors stayed open. I listened to the sound they made when they closed. I memorized the reflection of my face in the steel doors, just in case, one day it looked older than it should. That fear stayed quiet until the first letter arrived. The letter with no return address. It was slid under my door at exactly 12:12 a.m. No knock, no footsteps, just paper against floor. Inside was a single sentence, typed neatly. It's still moving. No name, no explanation. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I searched online. Forums, old blogs, abandoned Reddit threads, anything related to Hawthorne Residences, Elevator B, disappearances. Most posts were deleted, but one comment buried deep froze me. If you leave before it's finished with you, it will follow. The buildings that don't exist. Weeks passed. Then strange things started happening. I would enter an elevator in my new building, press my floor, and feel that same stillness. That unnatural pause where motion didn't feel like motion. The doors would open normally. But sometimes, just for half a second, I'd see something else reflected in the metal. A hallway that wasn't there. A color that didn't belong. A door with my name on it. And only once I saw the stay-leave buttons again. They vanished when I blinked. I wasn't the only one. One night, I met a man in the laundry room of my building. He looked exhausted. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. We stood in silence until he asked, without looking at me. Did your elevator ever ask you questions? My stomach dropped. I didn't answer. He nodded slowly. Yeah, thought so. He told me his story. Different city, different building, same old elevator. It showed him a floor where his daughter still talked to him. Another where she never existed. Another where she blamed him. He said, I didn't choose leave fast enough. I asked where he thought his daughter was now. He shook his head. I think she lives on a floor I'll never see again. That night, he didn't return to his apartment. His door stayed open for 3 days. Then it was empty. Why the elevator exists. I finally understood something important. The elevator wasn't haunted. It wasn't broken. It wasn't evil. It was honest. It showed people the consequences they spent their whole lives avoiding. Every floor was a question. Who are you willing to be? What are you willing to lose? What regret will you carry? Most people never chose. They wandered. And the elevator hates indecision. The floor meant only for me. Months later, during a blackout, my building went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, and I heard it again. Ding. This time, I didn't run. I stepped inside. The doors closed gently. No buttons lit up. The elevator moved downward. When the doors opened, I was standing in a hallway made entirely of mirrors. Every reflection was me but different. Older, colder, kinder, crueler, alone, surrounded. At the end of the hallway stood a door labeled Final Floor. Inside was a small room. A bed, a window, a silence that felt complete. Peaceful, too peaceful. I realized something terrifying. This was the floor where I stayed forever. Safe from regret. Because nothing would ever change again. The elevator doors behind me stayed open. Waiting. The last lesson. I didn't run. I walked back slowly. Because fear rushes but choice should never rush. As I stepped inside the elevator, a voice not spoken aloud echoed gently. You will always wonder what life would have been if you stayed. I pressed leave again. The elevator shuddered. When I woke up, I was in my bed. Morning light. Normal sounds. Normal life. But now I know the truth. The elevator doesn't disappear. It waits. For moments when you're tired. When regret feels heavier than hope. When staying feels easier than moving forward. So if you're listening to this story late at night, when your room is quiet, when your thoughts start opening doors you swore were locked, remember this. Not every floor is meant to be lived on. Some are only meant to be seen. Good night. Sleep softly. And if you want more midnight stories like this, subscribe, and press the bell icon, so the next story finds you before the elevator does.